Alright, so here we go, some canned eggplants. As I've shared before in previous posts on my channel, we kind of keep a garden, a community garden. Gives us ample space. I wasn't too much involved this year, wasn't able to be that involved this year, but this year we had a kind of a bumper crop of eggplants. These are different species of eggplants, specifically Japanese variety eggplants. Most species it'll work for this. This is a very delicious recipe that I'm going to walk through on canning eggplants. You will need a pressure cooker for this, and I do have a video. I'll attach a link on what a pressure cooker is and how it works. You can probably get them at a secondhand store or something like that, relatively inexpensive. Maybe your grandmother or great grandmother has one in the attic or basement somewhere, or they probably use it themselves, or your grandparents, I should say, as well. So anyways, I'm gonna get to it. It's a fairly easy recipe, and it actually tastes really good. There's a surprising ingredient in here that you wouldn't suspect you would use for canning, but since we have so much eggplants, I don't feel good about wasting the food, especially the food that you put effort into growing, especially nowadays, these times and days. The early fall of 2023. Decided, well, actually my girlfriend found a recipe on how to preserve eggplants. She doesn't like them dehydrated. I prefer to dehydrate these, just reconstitute them, which the remaining batch of eggplants that I have, I am going to dehydrate them and then reconstitute them as a way of preservation. So something to think about, and we're going to go ahead and move on ahead with canning some eggplants. Alright, so we're gonna peel the eggplants like this. And these are little O's that are kind of squishy, but that's fine. They'll work out just fine. Fresher, a little squishy is just as good. So, just take off the peelings. Like that. So I have a whole kind of pan with water full, already peeled. Now we're going to cut them up. So then we take our eggplants and we're going to try to cut them lengthwise, like so. Like that. Okay, and if they're too thick, or you think they're too thick, you can always kind of slice them down the middle, or they may be the right size, like that, kind of like you're making French fries. And actually, eggplant fries up pretty well. A little bit of batter, it tastes really good. So, just like that, that's kind of what you want. Alright, so next I'm going to take some sea salt. I reckon iodized salt, rather table salt could work, but sea salt's a little better. And you just want to sprinkle this on and kind of massage it with each layer. So I'm going to take another eggplant, cut it up the same way, put it on top, add a layer of salt, massage it in. Then do the next eggplant the same way, the next. So you kind of have layers of eggplant and salt, eggplant, salt, eggplant, salt. Okay? Okay, put this batch in the bowl like that. Little sea salt. Massage it together. Okay, once you have all of your eggplant slices saturated with some salt, not too much, but just a little bit for each layer, then you just want to cover it up from 8 to 24 hours. We generally do it for 24 hours. that's the last of it. So this is pressing seal. We'll just kind of cover it and just kind of let it sit for 8 to 24 hours. And that's it for now. Okay, so here's our eggplant that has been sitting pretty much overnight, 8 to 24 hours, 8 at the least. Something you can do at the beginning of the day before you go off to work, and then by the time you come home you can do this process. But it's been 24 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I want to squeeze out the juices, and then I want to put them in a plastic strainer or plastic container, and avoid metal with the eggplant, so that it doesn't continue to oxidize. As you can see, it's kind of turned a little bit of color there, but it's still good. All right. Okay, I have a colander with a pan here. This is a plastic colander with a metal pan underneath, just to catch some of the juices as I strain this out, right? So I'm just grabbing some of these here, and I've got my bowl over here, and I'm doing this off camera, but I'm just squeezing these out, squeezing the moisture and putting them in there like that. Okay, so I'm basically squeezing in the bowl. Squeezing, taking a handful, just squeezing, this hand squeezing the bowl, get rid of most of the moisture, and then put them in the colander. And that's basically it. Just squeeze them, squeeze out the moisture as much as you can, and then put them in the strainer like that, just so that any extra moisture can just drip away. Okay. Okay, next I've got about 3/4 cup of white vinegar and some water, waiting for it to boil. I'm going to add the vinegar to the water, and then add our strained eggplants to this and let it boil for about 10 minutes. So we're just going to wait for this to get to a boil. Okay, so we finally got the water boiling here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our vinegar. And then we're going to add our eggplant and let that boil for about 10 minutes. And we're adding our eggplant in there like that. And then kind of spread that around. Just let this boil for about 10 minutes. Put my timer on. Okay, so while we're waiting for our eggplants to boil up, we have a blend of spices, and this is just a few. This is based on your taste. So right here we have mint. Here, mint. We have minced cilantro, and then we have minced parsley, minced garlic. This is already pre-made, otherwise you can do fresh. I just didn't feel like chopping up any garlic today. And then optional is some minced peppers. These are Thai chilies, just to add a little bit of spice, but that's optional, of course. So this is really to your taste. Other spices you can add is coriander, dill, salt, spearmint, pepper, if you'd like, as well. So you can experiment based on your taste and what it is that you like, or what region of the world you come from. You know, different people in the world has different flavor profiles, I should say. So this is just kind of generic. Again, I like spice, so I'm adding a little bit of those chili peppers there. Alright, we have our eggplant boiling. It'll be done soon. Right on the money. So I'm just skimming the froth off the top just to keep it from overflowing. And I'm going to go ahead and reduce the heat and strain this out. Be careful so you don't scald yourself, don't burn yourself. Now over here for preservation, I have some jars that I'm going to let this water bring to a boil for a water bath, so that they are the jars are disinfected. I have the lids here. I'm just going to do the lids in a smaller container, so I can, or excuse me, a smaller pot, so I can use my my metal device here, excuse me, my magnet device here, to be able to pick them up from the water safely. So I'm straining this and I'm putting some cold water on here just so I can touch it, because it's going to be hot. Got to be careful. And also putting cold water on it kind of stops the cooking process, kind of freezes the cooking process, so to speak. And then that way, again, I can strain this again. I have to be able to take my hands and squeeze out the extra moisture for the next step. So just going to rinse it down with a little bit of cold water so I can touch it, so it's safe for the touch. Alright, so I'm squeezing out the excess moisture and adding them to a bowl. Squeezing out the excess moisture from the eggplant. And you know, if you want to be real thorough about it, you could use a towel or really strong paper towel to squeeze out the excess moisture. It should be by hand, should be good enough. Okay. So, first off, I'm going to add a little bit more salt, just a little bit. Then I'm going to add my peppers, optional, chili peppers. Then garlic. And again, I like cooking with my hands. To be honest, I like mixing stuff with my hands. Like if you can get a good feel of what's going on. If salt and different spices are dispersed properly. Just kind of mix this around. I actually probably used more jars than I needed to, but that's okay. I think this might probably be only make 2 or 3 jars, maybe. That's fine. I got plenty more eggplant. I got a ton of eggplant this year from the garden. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add my other spices, which is the peppermint and the cilantro. And then the parsley and whatever spices you choose to use per your taste. And then just start to mix this up all together.
Looks like that. That seems good enough. Alright, so next we have our sterilized jars here. I'm going to put them in a bowl here so that they are, you know, it's not so messy, right? So I'm just, this is cool to the touch after we've mixed our spices and eggplant together. I'm just going to stuff these in here, just like so. I may go back around depending on how much we have. This is actually really, really tasty. I actually like it. It actually turns out pretty well. It'd be good as topping for a salad or pizza or pasta. It's really, really good. It's a cool way to preserve eggplant. Because we just had kind of a bumper crop of eggplant this year. Don't know why. So I felt that, you know, I want to dehydrate them. I have opposition to that. I think I could reconstitute them just fine if they were dehydrated, because I don't want them to go to waste. Food is going to be a thing in the next few years, so they say, few months, so they say. So I want to preserve as much food as possible, right? If nothing else, you know, if you're not going to eat it all, at least something to barter with and to share with others who were more or less grasshoppers while you were being an ant during these weird times, interesting times. So I think we're going to get 4-pint jars out of this, out of the mountain. Again, I've got more eggplant. Again, I think I will dehydrate some of them, just because. Why not? In a pinch, when you're really hungry, and I've been hungry before, trust me, anything's going to taste good. I don't care. Those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. So, some things I don't really like when I'm not in dire straits, that, trust me, when I'm really hungry, I can't wait to eat. So, again, just stuff this in here. Probably could have added a little bit more in here, but that'll be okay for now. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to get this to keep this in frame. Now what we're going to do is we're going to top this off with olive oil. Go figure, right? So really good grade of olive oil. You're just going to top it off, you know, to basically where the threads are. Okay. And then and then we have tools like these little spatulas that you can get to make sure that there's no air bubbles and you're packing it as tight as you can. Okay. Put that there. Sometimes you kind of slam it or knock it on the surface a little bit. And then yeah, you see the air bubbles come up, so you just kind of do that to make sure that there's enough head space, meaning up to the threads of the jar. Do that. That settles. And we got one more. Like so. Again, this is actually absolutely really fabulous. This is actually really, really tasty. So I'll pack this down with my tool. Butter knife will work too, I reckon. Or a wooden stick or chopstick or something like that, if you don't have one of these cool spatulas. Okay. Put that aside. Now we're just going to top these off. Put a little topper on here. And these tops have been sterilized as well. So I'm just touching the edges. Try not to touch the seal of the inside. And like so. Okay. Then you take your rings and you seal them, you know, just tight enough. Not too tight, but tight enough. Firmly, I should say. When my great-grandmother would can, she would usually, if the process was done, she would just take the rings off and then they would sit as long as they were sealed. Once these are sealed, there's a little nipple on top. You might be able to see it. That, when it's properly sealed, you'll hear a pop. And that means that it's properly sealed after it's all done. If that does not happen, then it's not sealed properly. You may have to do it again or put it in the refrigerator and use right away. But yeah, my great-grandmother used to take these seals off, the rings off rather, and then you could just pop them open when it was all said and done. For her peach preserves and raspberry preserves and strawberry preserves, she used to make all the time. Apple preserves. I remember that. My great-grandmother, of course, of that generation, lived through the Depression, so that's what they did. And I grew up watching that, at least through osmosis. She never really have had me help her necessarily. I mean, I think she did once or twice, but I understood the process at least viscerally. So now we're going to put this in a water bath for about 10 minutes or so, and once the water is boiling. Okay, so yeah, just dip this in the water bath using these tongs here. Be careful not to scald yourself. And then you don't want them really touching. I'll adjust this later because I'm doing this one-handed. I don't want to burn myself. But this will be in a water bath for about 10-15 minutes in a rolling boil. And then you'll cut it off and then remove them and then wait for the seals to pop, like I said. So right now they're convex, so there's a nipple when they're not sealed, and when they're sealed they'll suck in and become concave, so they'll go like that. So alright, so the timer's gone off. I let these boil for about 15 minutes. 10 minutes is what I was told, but I'm gonna just be err on caution here and just kind of go overboard a bit. Yeah, so I'm just take these out here carefully. And a lot of these gimmicks for canning, like these funnels here and these tongs and these metallic sticks, you know, usually they come in a set or a kit. You know, Amazon.com is your friend, Walmart's your friend, you know, Target, I guess, is your friend, so on and so forth. So you can get canning supplies pretty much anywhere. So what we want to do is we want to let these cool down, and hopefully they'll seal, and you'll just hear. They won't do it right away. You have to let them kind of cool down to room temperature or colder, and hopefully they seal. If not, then we just put them in the refrigerator and consume them as quickly as possible. So there you go.